bem-vindo a mais um De Frente com o Touro, um programa de entrevistas onde eu converso com CEOs de empresas listadas. E hoje nós vamos falar com o CEO da Global X. A Global X é uma empresa que era do JP Morgan, que a Mirae Asset adquiriu em 2018, né? Tinha um patrimônio de 8,6 bilhões de dólares sob gestão, e hoje o Luiz Berruga, que é o CEO da Global X, me disse que atingiu a marca dos 24 bilhões de dólares. E nós estamos com ele para conversar e nos contar um pouco de como foi feito esse crescimento, de como, o que é a Global X, e ele vai nos contar também que ele está vindo para o Brasil. Mr. Luiz Berruga, nice to have you here, sir.
Thank you. Obrigado, Pablo. Obrigado.
Obrigado. It's a pleasure. Mr. Luiz Berruga, first of all, thank you very much. It's an honor to have you here in the program. In Portuguese, it's in front of the bull. I see you have a little bull, golden bull there with you. That's nice. Well, first of all, everybody must know you are from the family because Global X now is a Mirae Asset company. I would like you to tell us, what is Global X? Tell us a little bit, who is Global X and how do you guys work? Please, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pablo. So Global X is an ETF sponsor based out of New York since 2008. Our business model is very, very simple. We only do ETFs and ETF model portfolios. So we are kind of the ETF experts. Right now we have 79 ETFs that are listed in the US, either with the New York Stock Exchange or with NASDAQ. We manage around $24 billion in assets. We have more than 1 million clients around the world in 95 different countries, and we are widely known in the world.
95 countries, almost 100 countries.
95 countries, around
Wow.
95 to 100. Yes, absolutely. And then we are very
a lot.
Yeah, we're very well known in the industry for being the global leaders in thematic investing, and we've been one of the fastest growing ETF companies in the world for the last 3 years. And as you mentioned, Pablo, and you know very well, from an ownership standpoint, we are owned by the Mirae Asset Financial Group, which, as you know very well, manages over $400 billion in assets around the world. And
Yes.
specifically just in ETFs, they manage around $65 billion. So pretty remarkable.
Do you have the wish to become the largest ETF provider in the world, Mr. Berruga?
Obviously, that's a very challenging goal, but we do feel very, very confident that we have a very unique value proposition in the marketplace with some of our thematic investing ideas that we will be bringing to Brazil. So we do feel confident that we will be able to grow very rapidly over the next few years.
Because I see your company, when you joined our family, you had $8 billion. Now you have 24. The speed of growth is amazing. What is exactly semantic investment for our public?
I think you are absolutely right. I think what's happened is the market has realized that we have a very unique value proposition around thematic investing, and what thematic investing is very simple: a two-step growth-oriented investment process. So the very first step, we try to identify the most disruptive trends around the world that we expect will change the economy over the next 10, 15, 20 years. So you can think of e-commerce, you can think of cloud computing, you can think of robotics. So the first step is we identify those high-level disruptive trends. And the second step is we identify the companies that are best positioned to benefit from the materialization of those trends. Another way to explain thematic investing is very simple, Pablo. It's about investing looking into the future instead of investing looking at historical data and historical patterns.
And how do you see the opportunities for Brazilian investors to allocate in Global X? What kind of assets, what kind of ETFs, what could get the attention of the Brazilian investor?
Great question. I mean, I think given how far, the interest rates in Brazil have come down over the last 2 or 3 years. We do think Brazilian investors have a very strong incentive to look for growth, to add to their portfolios, because the current interest rate environment is not going to provide enough growth for the long-term oriented investors. And like I said before, I do think thematic investing in particular can be a very effective way to add this growth component to your portfolio by investing in some of the most disruptive technologies in the world. Like I said before, cloud computing, video games and esports, e-commerce, and lithium, electric vehicles. So these are themes that are literally changing how the world works. And I do think allocating a percentage of a client's portfolio to these high disruptive themes could be like a very attractive value proposition for Brazilian investors.
Very nice. Global X has, for example, a cloud computing ETF.
Yes, cloud computing ETF is one of our largest ETFs.
Wow.
We do have high conviction on this theme for a very simple reason. I mean, cloud computing provides the backbone of the digital economy that we are using now every day. For example, Pablo, you and I are right now talking over the internet. We are using Microsoft Teams, or we could be using Zoom. So literally, cloud computing provides the infrastructure that allows every single person in the world to be connected, whether it is via the internet or cell phones or mobile devices. So we do think it's a very attractive investment opportunity. And let me tell you something, like right now, the market for 2021 is expected to be like around a 300 billion market for cloud computing. But if you actually look at most of the IT environments in different offices around the world, it's still mostly not cloud-based. So I think the potential for cloud computing and cloud infrastructure is massive.
Yeah, and Mirae Asset's entering this technology industry very strongly. We acquired in the US, as you know, the Amazon headquarters and the Amazon logistics center also. So Mirae Asset is entering this market very strongly. Please explain for us what explains the growth of the ETF industry. I know that you are growing at a speed that it's unbelievable here in Brazil, but what explains the ETF industry overall? What makes it grow so much?
Great question, Pablo. I think there are two main factors that explain the growth of the ETF industry. The first one is the ETF product itself. It's just a very efficient investment vehicle for the large majority of investors around the world. Why? Because it has some structural advantages like intraday liquidity, transparency, cost, tax efficiency. And you can see that in the data, because it's not just Global X that is growing very fast. The industry as a whole is experiencing significant growth. And I can share with you a few data points. For example, in the US, in 2010, you had $1 trillion in ETF assets. In 2015, you had $2 trillion. But in 2020, we closed at $5.5 trillion in AUM.
Wow.
And this is Pablo, this is not just a US phenomenon. It's happening everywhere. So for example, if you look at Asia ex Japan, the growth in 2020 in ETF assets was around 47%. If you look in Europe, it was 25%. In LATAM, there is a little bit slower growth, but it's picking up quickly around 5, 6, 7%. And for example, in Brazil, we are seeing increasing adoption of ETFs as part of the investment process. So one of the reasons, again, is the fact that the ETF product itself is very efficient. The second factor that I think is driving growth is innovation. I think the ETF industry has done a very good job bringing innovative products to market. And in that regard, I do think Global X has been a pioneer in terms of bringing new strategies to market. For example, we brought the first thematic ETF in the world to market back in 2010, which is our lithium and battery technologies ETF. That product now has around $2.7 billion in AUM. We brought to market in 2011, that's 10 years ago, we brought in the first social media ETF in the world. More recently,
Social media, wow, it's so
Yeah.
nice, different.
and that was in 2011. That's 10 years ago. So when
10 years ago.
when nobody was
Congratulations.
really doing thematic investing, we were already bringing thematic products to market. And more recently, Pablo, because I think you will be interested in these two products. One is we brought robotics and artificial intelligence to market in 2016.
Wow.
And that product is right now the largest robotics ETF in the US. And more recently, last year, in July of 2020, we brought to market our telemedicine and digital health ETF, which just in a few months has reached over $700 million in AUM. So again, to summarize, I think the key drivers of growth for the ETF industry are like the efficiency of the ETF structure and constant innovation.
Wow, congratulations. Here in Brazil, we're still beginning. Mirae Asset launched the first fixed income ETF a while ago when the interest rates were much higher. So we caught all this closing of the curve, giving to our clients a very beautiful performance. But one question, my last question for you, Mr. Luis Berruga. How can Brazilians get beneficiate, and how can they invest in Global X funds here in Brazil? How it's gonna work?
Great question. I think thanks to the relationship that we have with the Mirae Asset team in Brazil, some of our strategies, more specifically our robotics and artificial intelligence ETF and our cloud computing ETF, will be available through a mutual fund structure managed by the Mirae Asset team in Brazil, and that is happening as early as today or next week. So we're very, very excited about this partnership with the Mirae Asset team in Brazil, because it will allow us to bring some of these innovative products to the Brazilian market that I think is looking for growth alternatives to add to their portfolios. And then in the long run, we want to work with the team in Brazil, with all of you, to hopefully be able to cross-list some of our most successful ETFs in the Brazilian market to make it even easier for Brazilian investors to access some of our most successful thematic strategies.
Perfect, but I'm very sure, and I can help you also, that the industry will be willing to sell Global X funds, because your performance has been amazing throughout all these years.
I really look forward to working with you, Pablo, and with the rest of the team in Brazil. And of course, once the whole COVID-19 situation goes away, I would love to go down to Brazil and spend a few days with all of you and with your clients.
Perfect. We wait for you here, Mr. Luis Berruga. Well, that was Mr. Luis Berruga. Thank you very much for your words here. We are opening to Brazilians. Mirae Asset is bringing together with him a set of several ETFs, thematic ETFs, artificial intelligence, cloud, among others, to open the opportunity to Brazilian investors to allocate in this beautiful investments in the US. Thank you very much, Mr. Berruga.
Thank you, Pablo. Obrigado.
Valeu. Obrigado a todos. Até a próxima. Vai, Tourinho!